Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dauster. I'm joined today by Ant Wright, and we are going to be breaking down the Michigan State Spartans. And I'm sure Michigan State fans just absolutely adore the fact that we have a Michigan Wolverine here talking about this team and this roster. Some changes here. Tyson Walker's gone. Malik Hall's gone. AJ Hogarth's gone. Matty Sissoko's gone. They brought in two transfers. Frankie Fiddler from Omaha, a big guy from Longwood, couple of freshmen that are interesting. But I think the big story here, and the key to the entire season for Michigan State is going to end up being the development and what this kind of young core group will look like this season. Jaden Akins is back. Trey Holloman is back. Jeremy Fears is back and hopefully healthy. Xavier Booker is back. Carson Cooper, Cohen Carr, Jackson Kohler. There's a lot of reliance here on the ability for Tom Izzo to kind of develop talent in-house because, let's just be frank with it, man, he doesn't like the transfer portal and he's not going to change his ways.
And he doesn't like overseas either. He doesn't like the international market. He doesn't like the transfer market. You know what? He's going to do things his way. He's been doing it for almost 3 decades now, and he's been very successful at it. But we haven't seen Michigan State really since Cash and Tillman left. It just hasn't had that same feel. And I think with this team, I think it's going to come down to, look, I was very happy that they were able to go overseas and play this summer. We got to see him a little bit, got to see some lineups, and he made it a point to play everybody, several minutes, and that's just not going to happen during the year. But being able to just see basketball, see guys go up and down, got me really excited. This team, I'm happy that Sissoko's now gone. It's one less center in the big man carousel. But, Xavier Booker, his talent is undeniable. Just got to continue to build on that for sure. But I think this team is going to come down to Jaden Akins and Frankie Fiddler. I think Jaden Akins, he's been like the second or third option every year since he's been there while playing a lot of minutes. But he was always the guy waiting for the pass, right? Can he be the guy with the ball? I think that's going to be the biggest thing in his senior year. And I think, someone like Frankie Fiddler, who was one of the best in the country at getting to the line last year, he got there, I think, like 7 or 8 times. That's going to be big, especially in a very physical conference like the Big Ten. Those two perimeter guys, a lot is going to be on their shoulders.
Yeah, I think in theory, I really like this group, right? Just kind of when you look at it without the context of they have Tom Izzo as a coach. Now, what I mean by that is you got some really good guards, you got some really good kind of wing pieces, right? And you got a 5-man who has a really high ceiling, who I think at his best is I don't know if like the mismatch 5 is the right word, but you're not going to go and throw Xavier Booker into the post and ask him and say, "Hey, look, we need you to get all these post touches. We need you to crash the glass. We need you to be Xavier Tillman or whoever throwback Michigan State big man you want to put into that category, right?" And I don't trust Tom Izzo to take this group and say, "We are going to be awesome if we play 5 out and create mismatches and create space and allow some of these really talented guards to find a way to be able to, get a lane going to the basket and be able to kind of take off and dunk and punch on someone," right? I just don't know if he is wired to do that. And I think that this is a roster where if you had a coach that just was all in on playing 5 out and playing different horn sets and putting guys in the corners and letting Xavier Booker be out on the perimeter and getting Cohen Carr chances to kind of roll to the rim where you could throw it to the square and let him go get it. I think that's what you need for this year. And I hope Tom Izzo buys into that idea.
Yeah. And with that, I think that I think their guard group is way deeper than their big group. And I think what can happen there is some of these freshmen are ready to play right away. Fear sat out last year after like 11 or 12 games due to that occurrence. And then you have
He got shot,
um
is what happened.
right, he
Yeah,
got shot. I didn't
he
know if
got
you want
shot.
me to go
Yeah,
there, but
he got shot.
he got shot at a friend's house. It wasn't like he was doing something crazy. Someone just came in and just lost his mind. But um, you have Jeremy Fears, Kurt Tang, and you have Jace Richardson. If Jace and or Kerr are able to warrant more playing time, he's also not going to sit Fears. What that's going to do, that's going to bump everyone down one,
Mhm.
right? You may get to a lineup at some point this year where he's finishing games with Frankie Filler at the 4, and Aikens at the 3, and you know, Holloman at the 2, Fears at the 1. I think the backcourt can really force more minutes, and you're going to see guys start to get a little bit weeded out as you go down. Where I think only Jackson Kohler and Xavier Booker, in my opinion, should be playing a majority of the minutes at the 5. And I think because of that, you can have Booker at the 5 and then Frankie at the 4. I think Frankie could be a good rebounder as well too. Um, you're not going to be as good defensively, and you're not going to be as strong on the boards, but you're going to be able to play a lot faster. You're going to have your better players on the court.
And sometimes you have to be okay with that, right? Like sometimes you have to be okay with the skill set that I have here is to play this kind of way. The talent that I
Absolutely.
have here is to play this kind of way. And if I'm going to try to take these guys that don't really fit this style and make them play this style over here instead of what works for them and the skill sets that they have, like it just part of coaching is figuring out the pieces that you have and allowing them to kind of maximize what their abilities are as opposed to force fitting everyone and doing it the way that you want it, if that makes sense. Um,
Absolutely.
I
And
want
they
to,
had, they loved the lineup of Colin Carr, Xavier Booker, and Jackson Kohler. And I wrote on SpartanShadows.com that you can have that lineup, but switch where the people are. Like I would have Cohen Carr. He's an athletic freak. If you don't know who Cohen Carr is, athletic freak. I would say the most explosive player in college.
yeah,
I would say, I would
yeah.
run him at the rim and just let him hang out in each of the short corners. I would put Kohler as the trail guy because he can shoot the ball. I would put Xavier Booker on the wing and let him just run the wing because he is a more finesse player. He's not a back to the back kind of guy. You're going to get some funky matchups, and then from there, kind of play to that. You know what I mean? So it's I think they have something here. It's just a matter of putting the right pieces where they need to go.
Jeremy Fears to me is kind of the X factor for this group, and Booker a little bit, and we'll talk about him in a second. But
Mhm.
I think that you are capped in the world of college basketball in terms of what your ceiling is if you don't have great point guard play. Like you got to have lead guard play. You got to have someone that can get you in your sets. You got to have someone that's the point of attack on offense and on defense. You got to have someone that can make life easy for other people when I mean, let's be honest, you don't really have guys that you could just kind of give the ball to and trust that they are going to go make something happen, right?
Right.
And my question with Fears is obviously he's coming off of the gunshot wound, right? Did
Right.
not have a great freshman season before that. He was fine. He looked like a freshman point guard in the Big Ten, but um, are you in on him taking the leap? Because I think they need him to be like, you don't need him to be Tyson Walker. You don't need him to be Cassius Winston, but like you need him to be 70% of that. Like you need him to be somewhere nearing the conversation of an all Big Ten third team if you're going to have this group be good enough to finish like top 5 in the league, in my opinion.
I think he is a scorer. And I think he is someone who can initiate. He actually went, I think, above and beyond on the international trip and being very trying to find guys, almost overlooking, right? Not
Mhm.
even thinking about scoring the ball or thinking about him. He was very, very pass first, which I think he was trying to do. But I think as the season goes and, as the off season goes, he'll find that balance to where he'll know okay, I could take this guy, or hey, I can get to this second level, and if I can manipulate one of these two defenders, I got Frankie on the left, or I got Jackson Kohler on the right, or I got
Mhm.
Lob at the rim. I think once the game slows down for him, because getting used to that speed again, um, I think he'll be able to be serviceable. And his biggest thing is to be almost a veteran by time like January, early February rolls around, right? You're no longer you're no longer wet behind the ears. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So, getting as much experience from, here up until that time is going to be huge.
Yeah. Trey Holloman, Jaden Akins, two more guys. Like those are your veterans. Those are going to be the older guys. Those are going to be the upperclassmen that have been here for 2 or 3 years. Um, I feel like we've been waiting for the Holloman's a little bit of a different story because I think that he's not someone that you're ever going to rely on to be like a 17 or 18 point per game guy, right? Like that's not what his job
Yeah,
is. Jaden Akins, I feel like we've been waiting for him to be this kind of breakout star for a couple of
absolutely.
seasons now, and
Yeah.
it just hasn't happened. So one, will it happen this year? And two, if he doesn't, like, do they have a guy? Do they have a star on this roster?
If he doesn't, they don't in the backcourt, especially. Jaden Akins, I kind of understand because he had to share the backcourt with Tyson Walker. He had to share the backcourt with someone like AJ Hogard, who is useless if he doesn't have the ball in his hand because he's not gonna, you know what I mean? I'm not saying useless, but you get it. You
Yes.
know, you get it. But it's whenever State got into trouble last year and the year prior to that, it was, hey, Tyson, bail us out. Hey, Tyson, bail us out. They're not going to have that this season. Jaden has to become that guy. He has to be that guy who could score at three levels, who could initiate at three levels as well, not just as a scorer. People were talking about him in the same breath with Kobe Buffkin coming out of high school,
Mhm.
and kind of seeing how that kind of split off. I don't blame Jaden at all whatsoever because he's someone who was so selfless. He sacrificed a lot, right? He could have left the last 2 summers,
Mhm.
but he believed in the system. He believed in his chance will be coming up. And he's no excuses this year. There's nobody in your way to take away what you're supposed to do. And I think he has every bit of the talent from the guard spot. But it's been a few years since he's been in that mentality. But if he can get that back this summer and this fall, Michigan State ceiling goes up exponentially.
So we've kind of touched around this a little bit, but I do want to have a just your thoughts in general on kind of Tom Izzo's stubbornness when it comes to the way that he wants to build rosters, the way that he wants to play the game. Like I feel like he's a legend. He's going to be a Hall of Famer the second that he is. He already is in the Hall
I
of Fame.
thought he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is a Hall of
Yeah.
Famer, right?
He's already in there.
Um, and I mean, he's one of the greats, one of the legends in the sport of college basketball today. But I also feel like there is a time and place when it comes to having to figure out a way to operate in a current environment that may be different than what you have done in the past, right? What is it? The leopard can't change his spots, a zebra can't change his stripes. Well, I feel like
Right.
sometimes you got to find a way to do that. And he went out in the portal and he got Frankie Fiddler, who I do think is that kind of big wing role that was not on this roster before he got him. He went out and he got a 7 foot, 50-year guy that, you know, he was at Longwood I think it's Zemo Zapala, right?
Yeah.
Averaged 10 points and 6 boards, like not great, but another 7 foot big body. And I don't think you really have that elsewhere on the roster. So um I'm curious your take on how this goes for Michigan State. Like, at what point does Tom Izzo need to change? Or if he has success this year and all of these things come together and Jeremy Fears takes a step forward and Jaden Akins ends up having his star turn and averages 16 a game and it works for Cohen Carr and Xavier Booker, like at what point does Tom Izzo just kind of say, look, I'm never changing. Like I got it done with this group. I am just doing what I do forever and ever and ever.
I think he's gonna stay with it, and I think he should have been tapped into the international market. The brand is really good worldwide, like very, very good worldwide. You talk to international scouts and all that; these players know Michigan State, but they're not really recruiting over there. When it comes to the portal itself, you have opportunities to really go out and get guys who can help you immediately or just upgrade your positions
Mhm.
immediately. And he's not doing that. Now, if he's fully trusting his culture and he's fully trusting what he's built, I get it. But I think this is the longest, this is insane that this is a long stretch without a Final Four, right? Um, Probably would have got there in 2020, because that was a really good team, but it's been since 2019, right? I think at one point, I think one, I think at one point, a few years ago, only one class did not go to a Final Four that he had, which is crazy. That is absolutely insane. So, can this group do that? I don't see it. I don't see it because college is still older. They're
Mhm.
still older this year. This is the last year of that. So maybe he's just holding on tight. maybe he's just holding on tight. So when next year comes around, when there are no more fifth year, sixth year, seventh year guys with COVID years, he's gonna have something that's already built, that's kind of gone through a lot to get there. But still, I think we just, I think he wasted 3 to 4 years without trying to go out there and really maximize this really rare period where you could really juice your roster with some really good players.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. I think we're going to come back towards the trend here that what he's doing will make a little bit more sense. And to be honest, if you look at what a program like UConn does, right? UConn is not adding 8 or 9 guys in the portal every year. Like they're bringing in freshmen, they're developing their freshmen, they're betting on getting guys better within their program. And then they got to plug a gap with a Cam Spencer, they'll go get the Cam Spencer. They got to plug a gap with a Aiden Mahaney and a Terrace Reed, they'll go do that. It's not like um, they're anti transfer portal, but
Didn't
it's a more
Tristan come from ECU or something?
yeah. So that they got 4 transfers in that year. It was Tristan Newton, it was Asan Diarra, it was Joey Calcaterra, who no one really expected anything out of, and it was Naheem Aline from Virginia Tech. And even then, it was the Joey Calcaterra was thought to kind of be a glorified walk on when he got there, and ended up earning a role. And Asan Diarra has come off the bench for 2 seasons, and and Naheem Aline was there for 1 year, and then off the bench and then ended up going to St. John. So it's the I think you're going to get back more to the long-winded. This is a long-winded way of saying I think what Izzo was doing is a healthy way to sustain a program. It's just it wasn't what it wasn't how you were going to win at the highest level the last 4 years, which is kind of what you said. All right, Xavier
Yeah.
Booker, how do you get the best out of him? Because I mentioned earlier, I think Jeremy Fears is the X factor. I think it's him and Xavier Booker. Like you need those guys to live up to what their hype was. We talked about Fears a little bit. How do you get the best out of Xavier Booker? How do you turn him into a guy that looks like the 5-star top 10 prospect that he was coming out of high school?
I mean, you got to play to his strengths, and you got to try to mask some of his weaknesses. I think one thing that I liked seeing this summer over the last couple weeks is that he has a much higher sense of urgency. Even if he was going in the wrong direction, I liked it still because it
Mhm.
looked like he was like, something needs to happen. I gotta move somewhere. He's still connecting the dots a bit, but the dots are connecting. Last year, there were times when the dots weren't connecting, and it looked like the game was moving a little bit too fast at times. I love seeing this summer how he was trying to be tougher. He was trying to be more physical. He was being more assertive. He wasn't waiting for the action to. It was a little bit more consistent too, which I really like to see. The first half of one of those games, he had like 19 or 20 points, and it was from dunks. It was from threes. He was getting after it defensively. If he could just do that and just be consistent, I'm not saying, you know, 20 points per half. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, look, like you've got all the talent in the world.
Xavier, if you don't get 40 points a game, man, you suck.
You suck. No, but it's I like what I've seen so far, but I think he has another he does have some more ways to go, of course, but being able to play him alongside the right people too. You don't want to put him along someone that doesn't that does not what's the word um, doesn't complement what he doesn't do as well, and
Mhm.
vice versa. And when you get someone who doesn't compliment you well, that's going to just make your weaknesses look way worse than they actually are. And it's going to dim your strengths. So finding that lineup that complements him the best should be in their best interest, honestly.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right. I was texting with somebody yesterday and they asked, I was talking about the Big Ten, and they asked, is it possible for every team in the Big Ten to go exactly 500 this year? And
No.
the where I kind of stand is they were joking a little bit, but I think that the top of the conference, I would say it's probably Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, maybe Ohio State, maybe
UCLA.
UCLA,
Yeah,
maybe
UCLA is up there.
Oregon, maybe Rutgers. But I don't think the gap between the best teams in the conference and where you would have Michigan State is going to be that large. Like my
I
best
agree.
guess is that you're going to have someone's going to finish 13-5 and win the league, and the team that finishes in 10th place is going to be 9-9 and 2 games out of third, or so. It's going to be that. Like there's going to be a couple possessions where in a couple different games that will determine whether or not you're a 3 seed in the Big Ten tournament or a 10 seed in the Big Ten tournament, which is
There
long
are
way of
there are
saying
20 games in the league.
so
It's not
15 and
18.
5, like 15 and 5, 10. Yeah, whatever. You get my point, right?
Yeah,
Um,
for
but
sure.
yeah, but I think Michigan State is one of those teams that I can see being anywhere from like a let's just say 12-8 to 10-10 in the conference this season. And I think it's going to
Mhm.
depend on how good is Fears, how good does what is the development of Xavier Booker, or do they have a guy that can get you a bucket at the end of a game like a Jaden Akins? So I'm curious your take on what you
The
want to
problem
see
with
from
that
this
is
team.
that puts them right where they've been the last few years, man.
Hmm.
That puts them right in that 7, 8, 9 seed.
Hmm.
And then you got to mess around and got to play one of the best teams in the country in round two.
Yep.
You know, like they had Carolina down by what 12 in the first half, and then you know X's and O's don't mean much in the tourney anymore. You're
Mhm.
going against dudes, and then when the dudes woke up,
It
it
was
was a
over.
wrap. And one of those dudes just happened to be like 40 years old. Cormac Ryan, he was old as hell. So it's tough. It's tough, man. It's like you don't want to be in that position, and you you got to fight to not lose more than 7 games. Like you got to be on the 6 seed or lower. Like that's like you can't mess around and be a 7. Like 6 seed or lower. Like that's what you have to do. If you want to get to another Final Four, it's they haven't been to a Final Four since 2019, since the whole COVID thing. They got to get back. I feel like Izzo was like breaking out in hives right now because he hasn't been back to one. You know, they're like you're talking. They've been to what, like 9 in the last 20 years or something.
Mhm.
That's crazy. Do you know how hard the tournament is? Like, yes, UConn's been there and they win national championships, but when they're not getting to a Final Four, how bad are they, Rob?
Yeah, it's not good. It's
It's
ugly.
not good.
It's
Like it's
ugly.
it's it's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. And the fact that he's been to so many Final Fours, then he runs up against, crazy stuff, whether it's '09 North Carolina or it's non-foul call against Butler with like Draymond, like
Well, I
that
mean,
whole
that's what happens when you get
crazy.
that far, which is like it's a one game knockout tournament. And
Yeah,
that's the thing that's so incredible about getting to, is it 8 or 9, whatever it is, 8 Final Fours, is that you have to have so much go right, and then you get to the Final Four, and it's one game, and one
yeah,
possession means so much. And at some point, there's going to be a strange call. It's just the way that basketball works. There's going to
yeah,
be a strange play. So the fact that he's gotten there, I think, says a whole lot more than anything else. And I don't
absolutely.
know if they'll get there this year, but I think that he has enough to, if I had to set the expectations for this team, I would say top 30 to 35 team in America with a little bit of upside. I would say get to the tournament, and I would say win the game. And that's a good year for this group and roster that he's put together. But like, it's also, and this is Michigan State, right?
Yeah,
This isn't, we're not talking about Iowa here.
Northwestern or
We're
you're
not
right.
talking about Northwestern where like you have a little bit of success. Everyone's like, "Oh, Chris Collins, congratulations, you won a tournament game." No, you get knocked out in the second round of Michigan State, and that's a problem.
You're right.
There's a level of expectation and success within that the history of this university that I think kind of changes the conversation a little bit. So
Got to get to the second weekend, man. You got to
yeah.
you got to get there. I mean, like, look at it. What against Kansas State? I mean, that was a game that they could have got, and then next thing you
Mhm.
know, they're playing Florida Atlantic in the Elite Eight, right?
Mhm.
That's a favorable matchup for them. So the more you win, the more upsets that you'll be able to benefit off of the further you get in the tournament. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's tough. They can't lose more than like 7 or 8 games in conference, or they're going to be right where they've been the last few years.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough because like everybody is so balanced in that Big Ten. It's just there's like 13 or 14 teams that I can squint at and talk myself into having a real chance of being a tournament team. All right, grade their offseason. I gave Izzo a B minus. I think it matters getting Booker back. It matters getting Fears back. It matters getting Aikens back. It matters getting having that level of retention in your program. They're betting on player development, which I get. I think getting Frankie Fiddler was good, but at the same time, they didn't really address the issue of they don't have the traditional big guys that you would expect a Tom Izzo team to have. Um, and while they got rid of some guys that needed ridding, I think is the way to phrase it, you also lost Tyson Walker. And barring somebody taking a huge leap, like you don't have a dude that can go out. Like, how many guys were able to take over a game the way that Tyson Walker could take over a game last season? Like
Right.
5, 6,
He
7,
was
not
so
many.
good.
So,
He
yeah.
was like 5'9", 5'10" doing this. Like it wasn't like he was just overpowering dudes. He was just hitting when there was like college Iverson just
Hey,
killing.
it was one of those ones where it's like, all right, what are we gonna run today, guys? Give the
Yeah.
ball to Tyson and get the hell out of his way and just go make something happen. It was the AAU do him offense. Give the ball to
Oh
Tyson, do
man.
him.
Help, Tyson, help, Tyson, help. Help us. We need you. 7 seconds left. Just go. Just go.
Please,
Kill him.
Tyson, bail us out. Bail
One
us out.
for
Make me look good
low.
as a coach.
One for low. Just go.
Yeah, so I give him a B minus.
I thought I was going first. But yeah, I gave a B minus as well. You said that and I was like, did he just say what I just was? B minus.
Read your mind.
And I say that because of similar reasons. The biggest reason for me is that I don't think they, if this was any other coach, I am all about Fears. All right. Don't get it twisted. I like Fears. I like his game. But any, like 98% of the coaches are going to try to bring in a point guard that's a veteran, and that person is going to have Fears under their wing. That's just what I feel, right? He played, I think, 11 or 12 games last year. Someone would for sure, like, he'll be learning a lot. And hey, maybe he overtakes, at some point during the season. But that part kind of, we knew he wasn't going to go out and get a guard. So like, that's another thing. He's just all in on Fears, which is super dope. If you're Jeremy, honestly, to have your coach be all in on you, where he didn't even go out and get a guard, let alone a point guard. Like, he went out and got a big wing and got a 7-foot dude. Like, he said, look, we're good here. Work on your game, get healthy. We're all in on you. Like, that is, you can't manufacture that confidence. Like, that's someone saying, I'm not going to go get someone. And then I don't even think a guard's name popped up on the portal. Like, oh, hey, Michigan State is thinking of this person. I think one guy from like Colorado, and he was a 3, legit 3-4. So that is the ultimate confidence. That and they did retain who they wanted to retain, but there's just it feels like a rerun without Tyson Walker, not gonna lie. It feels like a rerun without Tyson Walker. I think Frankie Fiddler needs to be everything that he is on paper. And I don't know if he is that. And he has to truly embrace the Michigan State culture. He has to understand how to be coached, understand what Tom Izzo wants, and go out there and do his thing. Get to the rim, get your rim pressure, be that guy who can almost alleviate, Akins at times. Like, with no Tyson, that could be like a committee thing. I think Akins and Fiddler each have the ability to score in one-on-one matchups. I truly believe that. So if that could be like by a committee thing, but still, I would say B minus, because it does feel like a bit of a rerun where nothing was. I think Fiddler being a bigger wing was addressed, but Shimon Zapala and Carson Cooper, in my opinion, aren't pushing Jackson Kohler for minutes. They shouldn't.
No.
They shouldn't, right? So if someone came in that was going to push Kohler for minutes, I think I would have given more of a B, maybe. If they went out and got a decent guard, someone to even challenge Fears, maybe not overtake, but just challenge him. Like, who's the point guard if Fears comes out? Like Holloman? Holloman is such a glue on both ends. Very good defender. And spot up shooting, very good spot up shooter. But are we giving the ball to Holloman to go out there and initiate offense and do all these things? I'm not sure who the backup is. It could be Akins as the backup, but I think Holloman's going to be the de
That's
facto
not what you
backup.
want. Like that's the problem. Is like
Exactly,
that's not what you want.
exactly, exactly.
What you want.
And like I didn't even think about that part to go with the B minus. So yeah, I'm gonna go low B minus then because I'm
Low
just
B
thinking about
minus.
I'm just thinking about the guard spot, and the depth there. It's crazy that they have good guard depth, terrible point guard depth.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they
like they
need
have
it's
good guard
fears,
depth.
man. It's fears, and it's Booker, and it's those guys. You're betting on those guys having big
Yeah,
sophomore seasons, and they certainly could. Like those are good, talented dudes that are in a program that has shown in the past the ability to develop players, but that is certainly no guarantee. Listen, Ant, this has been fun breaking down Michigan State, who I think is one of the more intriguing storylines as we head into this upcoming season. Appreciate you guys being here. Field of 68 YouTube channel is going to have 45 of these episodes of off-season grades over the course of August and September. So make sure you go and check them all out.